You check your bank account on a Tuesday afternoon and see $847. Not bad, right? Then you remember rent is due in 5 days, your car insurance just auto-renewed for $230, you need groceries, and, oh yeah, you still haven't paid back your friend from that concert last month. Suddenly, that $847 feels like $47. And here's the thing. You make decent money. You're not out here buying designer clothes every weekend or eating at Michelin star restaurants. You're just normal. You do what everyone else does with money. And that's exactly the problem. My name is Deb, and I spend way too much time thinking about why normal people stay broke while doing everything they're supposed to do with money. If you're someone who makes a reasonable income but somehow always feels like you're treading water financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I'm going to walk you through 7 money habits that seem completely reasonable, that your parents probably do, your coworkers definitely do, and that society tells you are just part of being a responsible adult. But here's what most people don't realize. These normal habits are specifically designed to keep you poor. Not by some evil conspiracy, but by the simple mathematics of how money actually works. Let's get into it. Habit 1. Buying things because they're on sale. Here's the thing about sales. They make you spend money you weren't planning to spend. I know this sounds obvious, but stick with me because the math here is wild. According to a 2023 study by Capital One Shopping, the average American spends an extra $314 per month on unplanned purchases because of sales and promotions. That's $3,768 per year. But here's where it gets really interesting. That same study found that 68% of those purchases were items people had zero intention of buying before seeing the discount. Let me give you a real example. You go to Target for laundry detergent, $12. But when you get there, there's a sign. Kitchen gadgets 40% off. Suddenly, you're walking out with a garlic press you'll use twice, a vegetable spiralizer that'll collect dust in your cabinet, and yeah, the laundry detergent. Your $12 trip just became $67. But you saved money, right? Wrong. You spent $55 you weren't going to spend. The fact that you spent $55 instead of $92 doesn't mean you saved $37. It means you lost $55. Now, you might be thinking, but Deb, what if I was eventually going to buy those things anyway? Fair question. Here's the reality. Most sale purchases sit unused. A study from the Journal of Consumer Research found that people use only 37% of items they bought on sale within the first year of purchase. Here's the psychological trap. Sales create artificial urgency. Your brain sees 60% off, today only, and suddenly you're in scarcity mode. You're not thinking about whether you need it. You're thinking about whether you can afford to miss the deal. Those are completely different calculations. And one of them keeps you poor. The fix? Before buying anything on sale, ask yourself, would I buy this at full price? If the answer is no, you don't actually want it. You want the feeling of getting a deal. Habit 2. Paying for convenience without calculating the cost. Look, I get it. You're tired. You work hard. You deserve to have your groceries delivered or grab takeout instead of cooking. I'm not here to tell you to never enjoy convenience. But here's what most people don't realize. Convenience costs compound faster than almost any other expense. Let's do the math on a completely normal week. Monday, you're running late. $7 breakfast sandwich and $5 coffee. Wednesday, you're exhausted. $35 DoorDash dinner. Friday, you don't feel like grocery shopping. $18 delivery fee plus markup on a $110 order. Saturday, you meet friends at a cafe. $9 for a latte you could make at home for 60 cents. That's $184 in convenience spending for 1 week. Multiply that by 52 weeks, and you're at $9,568 per year. But here's where the psychology gets interesting. None of these feel like significant purchases in the moment. Your brain categorizes them as small expenses, so they don't trigger your financial defense mechanisms. According to Bank of America's 2024 Better Money Habits survey, the average American spends 23% of their income on convenience purchases. Food delivery, grocery delivery, ride sharing instead of public transit, premium shipping, and time-saving services. For someone making $50,000 a year, that's $11,500 annually. Now here's the crazy part. A study from MIT's Consumer Psychology Lab found that people who use convenience services regularly estimate they spend 40 to 60% less than they actually do. Your brain literally can't track these purchases accurately because they happen too frequently and feel too small. I'm not saying become a monk who never orders pizza. I'm saying calculate your actual convenience spending for 1 month, all of it, and then ask yourself, is this worth delaying my financial goals by X months or years? Because that's the real trade-off. Habit 3. Upgrading your lifestyle every time you get a raise. This one is massive, and it's probably the single biggest reason why people who make 6 figures feel just as broke as they did making $40,000. It's called lifestyle inflation, and here's how it works. You get a $500 monthly raise. Your brain immediately thinks, great, now I can finally afford that nicer apartment, or maybe a car payment, or whatever. Within 3 months, your new expenses have absorbed that entire raise, and you're back to living paycheck to paycheck, just with nicer stuff. A 2023 study by Fidelity found that 60% of workers spent their entire last raise within 6 months of receiving it. Not saved it, spent it. And here's the thing that makes this habit so dangerous. It's completely socially acceptable. Society literally tells you that this is what you're supposed to do with more money. Make more, spend more. It's the American dream, right? Wrong. It's the American trap. Let me show you the math that nobody talks about. Say you're 30 years old, making $50,000 a year, and you get a $5,000 raise. Most people immediately upgrade their lifestyle by $416 per month. But here's what most people don't realize. If you invested that $416 per month instead, earning an average 8% annual return, you'd have $211,398 by age 60. That one raise, properly invested, could fund your entire retirement. But wait, it gets better. Most people get multiple raises throughout their career. If you got even modest raises every few years and invested them instead of upgrading your lifestyle, you could easily accumulate over $800,000 by retirement. That's the difference between financial freedom and working until you're 70. The psychological driver here is called hedonic adaptation. When your income increases, you quickly adapt to your new spending level, and it becomes your new normal. The fancy apartment doesn't feel fancy anymore after 3 months. It just feels like home. But the payments? Those still feel like payments. Here's my challenge. The next time you get a raise, live like you didn't get it for 6 months. Bank or invest that extra money. I promise you won't even miss it because you weren't spending it before anyway. Habit 4. Keeping up with your friend group's spending. This one is going to make some people uncomfortable, but we need to talk about it. Your friends might be financially hurting you. Here's what I mean. Your friends want to go out to dinner, $65 per person. They want to split an Airbnb for a weekend trip, $300 each. They're all buying tickets to that festival, $200. And you? You can't really afford any of it. But you also can't be the person who always says no, right? Because then you're the broke friend, and that's uncomfortable. So you go. You swipe the card. You tell yourself you'll figure it out later. And then later comes, and you're staring at a credit card balance that's grown by another $600 that month. A 2024 study from Bankrate found that 47% of millennials and Gen Z individuals have gone into debt to keep up with their friends' spending habits. Not for emergencies, not for investments, for social activities they couldn't afford but felt pressured to participate in. Here's the psychological trap. Humans are wired for social belonging. FOMO, fear of missing out, is a real neurological response. When your friends are all doing something and you're not, your brain registers it as social exclusion, which triggers genuine stress responses. So you spend money you don't have to avoid emotional discomfort. But here's what most people don't realize. Your friends probably can't afford it either. A study in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that 64% of young adults admitted to spending beyond their means in social situations, and that most assumed everyone else could afford it, when, in reality, most people were also struggling. Look, real friends will understand if you suggest cheaper alternatives. Hey, instead of that expensive restaurant, want to do a potluck at my place? If someone gives you grief about your financial boundaries, that's a them problem, not a you problem. The fix is simple but uncomfortable. Have one honest conversation with your friend group about money. You'll be shocked how many people will be relieved that someone finally said it. And if they're not, you might need to find friends who are on the same financial wavelength as you. Habit 5. Treating your car like a status symbol instead of transportation. Let me hit you with a statistic that's going to make you rethink your driveway. The average American spends $10,728 per year on their vehicle. Payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration. That's according to AAA's 2024 driving cost study. That's $894 per month. For something that sits parked 95% of the time. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most people buying new cars don't need them. They want them. According to Experian's 2024 Automotive Finance Report, the average car payment in America is now $739 per month for new vehicles and $532 for used. And the average loan term? 68 months. That's nearly 6 years of payments. Here's the math that car dealers definitely don't want you to see. A $35,000 car financed at 7% interest over 68 months costs you $45,147 when you include interest. You just paid an extra $10,147 for the privilege of debt. But wait, cars depreciate. That $35,000 car is worth about $24,000 after 3 years. So you've paid $45,000 for something now worth $24,000. Now, you might be thinking, but Deb, I need a reliable car for work. Absolutely. I'm not telling you to buy a broken-down clunker. I'm telling you that you probably don't need a brand-new $35,000 SUV. A $12,000 reliable used car will get you to work just as effectively. And here's the key. If you bought that $12,000 car with cash instead of financing a $35,000 car, you could invest that $739 monthly payment. Over 5 years, that $739 per month invested at 8% returns becomes $54,379. Over 10 years, $135,089. That car payment isn't just costing you $739 per month. It's costing you your future financial security. The psychological driver here is called conspicuous consumption. We use purchases to signal status. A nice car says, I'm successful. I made it. But here's the brutal truth. That car payment is actively preventing you from actually making it financially. Habit 6. Paying the minimum on everything instead of being strategic. Look, minimum payments feel responsible. You're making your payments, right? You're not defaulting on anything. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Except minimum payments are specifically designed to keep you in debt as long as possible while maximizing the interest you pay. Let me show you the math on this because it's genuinely shocking. Say you have a $5,000 credit card balance at 22% APR, pretty standard. The minimum payment is usually 2% of the balance, so $100 to start. If you only pay the minimum, it will take you 24 years to pay off that card, and you'll pay $8,880 in interest. You'll pay $13,880 total for a $5,000 balance. But here's what most people don't realize. If you paid just $50 extra per month, bringing your payment to $150, you'd pay off that same card in 4.5 years and pay only $2,468 in interest. That extra $50 per month saves you $6,412 and 19.5 years of debt. According to a 2024 report from the Federal Reserve, the average American household with credit card debt carries $7,951 in revolving debt. At typical minimum payment rates, most people will spend over 20 years paying off what could be paid off in 3 to 4 years with strategic extra payments. Here's the psychological trap. Minimum payments feel manageable. They don't hurt. Your brain categorizes them as handled. You made the payment, you're done, you can move on with your day. But that manageable feeling is costing you tens of thousands of dollars. The fix. Use the debt avalanche method. List all your debts by interest rate. Pay minimum on everything, then put every extra dollar toward the highest interest rate debt first. Once that's gone, move to the next highest. This mathematically minimizes the total interest you'll pay. Now, some people prefer the debt snowball method, paying off the smallest balances first for psychological wins. That's fine too. Either strategy is infinitely better than minimum payments across the board. Habit 7. Not tracking your spending because you're not that bad with money. This is the habit that enables all the other habits on this list. And here's the thing. Most people who say they're not that bad with money have absolutely no idea where their money actually goes. A 2023 study by Intuit found that 65% of Americans don't track their spending in any meaningful way. And when researchers asked those same people to estimate their monthly spending in different categories, they were off by an average of 37%. Not 5%, not 10%, 37%. Here's what this looks like in real life. You think you spend maybe $400 per month on food, but when you actually track it, restaurants, takeout, coffee, groceries, that meal you grabbed at the airport, it's $740. You think you spend $100 on entertainment. It's actually $285. You think you're saving $300 per month. You're actually saving $80. The psychology here is called mental accounting, and it's a cognitive bias where your brain sorts money into different mental categories and treats dollars differently based on where they're categorized. That $6 latte doesn't feel like real spending because it's just coffee. But 20 of those per month is $120, which absolutely is real spending. Here's the fix, and it's simpler than you think. Track every dollar for 30 days. I'm not saying budget yet, just track. Use an app like Mint or YNAB, or honestly, just use a Notes app on your phone. Every time money leaves your account, write it down with a category. After 30 days, you're going to have a moment of clarity that's genuinely uncomfortable. You're going to see exactly where your money is disappearing. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when real change becomes possible. Look, here's the thing that nobody wants to hear. Being normal with money means you're going to end up with normal results. And the normal result in America is living paycheck to paycheck, carrying debt into your 60s, and retiring on Social Security because you don't have actual savings. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to wake you up. Because every single habit we talked about today seems reasonable in isolation. Of course you buy things on sale. Of course you pay for convenience when you're busy. Of course you celebrate a raise. Of course you spend time with your friends. Of course you need a car. Of course you make your minimum payments. Of course you don't micromanage every dollar. But here's what most people don't realize. These habits compound. The sale purchases, plus the convenience spending, plus the lifestyle inflation, plus the social pressure, plus the car payment, plus the minimum payments, plus the lack of awareness, creates a financial trap that's incredibly difficult to escape from. The good news? You can break out. You can make different choices. You can be weird with money. And here's what's crazy. Being weird with money for 5 years creates more financial peace than being normal with money for 50 years. So start with one habit. Pick the one that resonated most with you today and change it. Track your spending for 30 days. Say no to one friend outing. Bank your next raise. Pay extra on one debt. Buy one less thing on sale. Whatever it is, start today. Because the life you want, the one without financial stress, where you can breathe, where you have options, that life is available to you. But you have to be willing to do what normal people won't do. If this video helped you see money differently, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos where we break down exactly how money actually works. Hit the like button if you're ready to stop being normal with money. And drop a comment telling me which habit hit home the hardest for you. Let's build wealth together. I'll see you in the next one.